A stormy night, thunder rumbled across the sky, shaking the very foundation of the small town where Nathan Obinna lived. He stood by the window of his modest apartment, staring blankly at the dark sky. The rain lashed violently against the glass, mirroring the turmoil inside him. Something was wrong. Something was happening to his body. Nathan has been feeling strange for weeks. Nauseous in the morning, dizziness, fatigue. His stomach, once flat and strong, had begun to bulge unnaturally. At first, he thought it was just weight gain, but as the days passed, he noticed something horrifying. His body was changing in ways no man's body should. His mind raced back to 5 years ago, to the woman he had once called his wife, Adora, the woman he had mistreated, humiliated and ultimately abandoned when she needed him most. Nathan had been a selfish man, proud and arrogant. He had taken Adora for granted, treating her like nothing more than an object in his house. She was a gentle soul, always patient, always trying to please him. But even though he ignored her love, but one day she got pregnant. Instead of rejoicing, Nathan had accused her of trapping him. He refused to take responsibility. You think carrying my child will make me stay? Never. I don't want this child. He had yelled at her, shoving her away. Adora cried, begged and pleaded with him, but his heart was as hard as stone. He abandoned her, left her to suffer alone, to face pregnancy without love or care. And then she died. The news of Adora's death had been a shock to the town. Some said she died of childbirth complication. Others whispered that she died of heartbreak. But one thing was clear. She left with a curse on her lips. A curse for the man who betrayed her. Nathan never believed in curses. He had laughed when he heard that Adora's last words were, "You refuse to carry my body, Nathan. May you carry it in another form. May you know what it means to suffer as I did." Now, 5 years later, her voice echoes in his mind as he stood in front of his mirror, staring at his swollen belly. He was a man, but he was pregnant. Nathan jolted awake from a restless sleep, his body drenched in sweat. The nightmare had been vivid. A dream of Adora standing over him, whispering, "You will carry my pain." He shook his head, trying to brush off the fear creeping into his soul. This isn't real. This is impossible. But the bulge in his stomach said otherwise. He had tried ignoring it, thinking it was a medical condition, but each passing day made it undeniable. He felt movement, small fluttering sensation deep inside his belly. In desperation, he visited a hospital. The doctor, an elderly man with decades of experience, frowned as he examined Nathan. "This is unusual, impossible even," he murmured, pressing against Nathan's stomach. Nathan's gulp. "Tell me the truth, doctor. What is happening to me?" The doctor hesitated, then shaking his head, he spoke in a hushed tone. "Mr. Obinna, you are pregnant." Nathan's heart stopped. He stared at the doctor in disbelief. "What?" "I don't know how, but there is a life inside you," the doctor continued. "Your body is functioning like a woman's. This is beyond science." Nathan grabbed his head, his breath coming in short gasps. "No, no, no. This can't be possible." The doctor leaned forward, eyes full of concern. "Nathan, is there anything at all that you have done in your past, something that could explain this?" Nathan swallowed hard. "Adora, the cause. No, it couldn't be." But deep down he knew he was carrying the burden of his sin, burden of his past, and there was no escaping it. Nathan became a man living in the shadows. He quit his job, avoided public places, and spent his days locked in his apartment, trying to make sense of his reality. His body continued to change. His once deep voice softened, his muscle weakened, and worst of all, he began experiencing excruciating labor like pains. One night, as he lay on the bed, he heard something, a whisper. "Nathan," he froze. The voice was soft, almost like a wind, but he recognized it. "Adora." His blood turned to ice. Tears burned down in his eyes as he whispered, "Adora, if this is you, forgive me." The voice signed, "Forgiveness? You asked for it now?" Nathan broke down, sobbing. "Please, I was a fool. I treated you like nothing. I regret it." The room fell silent. Then the voice spoke again. "Your punishment is not yet over. You abandoned my child. You will feel what I felt until you understand." Nathan gasped as a sharp pain shot through his belly. He clutched his stomach, screaming in agony, and at that moment he knew this wasn't just a dream. It was real, and the nightmare was just beginning. Nathan clutched his stomach as pain shot through his body like lightning. His breath came in short gasps, his mind spiraling into panic. He stumbled to the bedroom, gripping the sink for support. His reflection in the mirror terrified him. His once chiseled face looked softer, his jawline less defined. His eyes were sunken, dark eyes forming beneath them. His shirt stretched tightly over his stomach, a stomach that was undeniably pregnant. No, 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 he whispered, his hands trembling as he touched his swollen belly. Just then, a loud knock shattered the silence of his apartment. Bang, bang. Nathan, open this door right now. It was Chike, his best friend. Nathan stood frozen. He hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks. He had ignored every call, every text, and every attempt to reach him. How could he face anyone like this? The knocking grew more urgent. Nathan, if you don't open the door, I swear, I will break it down. Nathan hesitated, then slowly unlocked the door. Chike pushed it inside, his eyes scanning the dimly lit room before settling in on Nathan. His expression turned from anger to shock. Jesus Christ, Nathan, what the hell happened to you? Nathan turned away ashamed. You wouldn't believe me even if I told you. Chike stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Try me. Nathan swallowed hard, his throat dry. His hand shook as he lifted his shirt, exposing his swollen belly. Chike took a step back. No, no, this isn't possible. There is some kind of sick joke, right? He let out a nervous laugh, but the terror in his eyes betrayed him. Nathan's voice was barely above a whisper. I wish it was. Chike shook his head furiously. Nathan, man, men can't, men don't. You need to see a doctor. A real one, not one crazy old man who fills your head with nonsense. Nathan let out a hollow laugh. I already did. And you know what the doctor said? He stepped closer, eyes burning with fear and desperation. He said, I am pregnant. Chike froze. What? Nathan breathing quickened. I don't know how. I don't know why. But something inside me is growing, moving, and it is very real. Chike ran a shaky hand through his hair. Bro, this is not normal. This is witchcraft. Who did this to you? Nathan's lips trembled. Adora. Chike's face paled. Your late wife? Nathan nodded slowly. She cursed me before she died, and now I am paying the price. The room fell into an eerie silence. Then suddenly a whisper, a soft ghostly voice. You must feel my pain. Nathan's eyes widened in horror. Did you hear that? Chike's face went white. Yes, yes, I did. And before either of them could react, a sharp, unbearable pain tore through Nathan's stomach. He screamed. His body collapsed on the floor, writhing in agony. Chike could only watch in helpless terror as something moved beneath Nathan's skin. Chike paced the room, panic evident in his face. Nathan, we need to get you to a priest. This isn't medical, this is spiritual. Nathan lay on the floor, gasping for breath. His body was drenched in sweat, his hand clutching his stomach as the pain subsided. He escaped shakily. Do you think I don't know that? His voice was weak, barely audible. But where do I start from? Who would believe that a man is? He couldn't even bring himself to say it. Chike knelt beside him, gripping his shoulder. We need to find answers. Someone must know how to break this curse. Nathan shut his eyes tightly. There's one person who might have answers. Chike frowned. Who? Nathan hesitated. His voice was barely a whisper. Then he said, Adora's mother. Silence filled the room. Chike slowly stood up, rubbing his palm together. Nathan, you know that woman despises you, right? Nathan let out a weak chuckle. Despise is an understatement. She said I killed her daughter. She swore never to forgive me. Chike nodded. And now you want to go and tell her that her dead daughter cursed you and you are carrying some supernatural pregnancy. Nathan swallowed hard. I have no choice. If anyone knows how to break this, it is her. Chike signed, rubbing his temples. Fine, but if she calls the police on you, don't say I didn't warn you. Later that night, Nathan and Chike stood outside Mama Adora's house. The old woman lived in a small, weathered bungalow on the outskirts of a town. A dim light flickered from her window, casting eerie shadow. Nathan hesitated. His hands were sweaty, his heart pounding. What if she slams the door on my face? He whispered. Chike signed. Only one way to find out. Summoning the courage, Nathan knocked. Moment later, the door creaked open, and there she stood, Mama Adora. Her face was older than he remembered, lined with sorrow and bitterness. Her sharp eyes landed on him, and instantly her expression darkened. You, she spat, her voice filled with venom. What are you doing here? Nathan's throat tightened. Mama, please, I need your help. She let out a bitter laugh. You need my help? The man who abandoned my daughter in her worst moment, the man who left her to die. Nathan's voice cracked. I am cursed. Her sharp gaze looked onto him. Cursed? Nathan hesitated, then lifting up his shirt to reveal his swollen belly. Mama Adora gasped, her eyes widened in shock, horror flashing across her face. She stumbled back, gripping the door frame for support. You? She whispered. Nathan's lip trembled. It is real, Mama, and I think Adora did this to me. Tears welled up in the old woman's eye, but instead of anger, her face softened. She shook her head and said, Oh, Nathan. His heart pounded. You believe me? She nodded slowly. I do, because you are not the first man this has happened to. Nathan's blood ran cold. What? Mama Dora's eyes were filled with an eerie sadness. There is something you don't know, Nathan. Something about Adora, about the child she carried. Nathan breathed, quickened. Tell me, please, tell me. She took a deep breath, and then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, Adara was never human. Nathan's word went dark. Nathan staggered, lingering and gripping his stomach as Mama Adora's word echoed in his head. Adora was never human. His breath hitched. His mind refused to accept what he had just heard. What do you mean? That is impossible. Mama Adora sighed heavily, her aged hands trembling as she motioned for him and Chike to step inside. The dimly lit room smelled of burning incense and something ancient. A strange energy lingered in the air, sending chills down Nathan's spine. You don't know who you married, Nathan, the old woman said, lowering herself into a creaky wooden chair. You thought Adora was just a woman, but she was more. She was chosen from birth, marked by the spirit of the deep. She was never meant to live a normal life. Nathan's fingers twitched. What are you saying? Mama Adora's eyes locked onto his. Adora carried a spirit child, a child that belonged to two worlds. Silence, Chike's mouth fell open. Two words, as in, the child she carried was not yours, Nathan, she said coldly. It was never yours to claim. Nathan's heart pounded, but she raised a hand, silencing him. That night you abandoned her. You sealed your fate. The spirits saw what you did. They saw how you rejected your own flesh and blood. And now they had given you the burden you refused. Nathan's leg felt weak. His body slumped onto the chair. He was carrying a spirit child. Chike shook his head violently. No, 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 this is madness. You are saying this child, whatever is inside Nathan, is not normal? Mama Adora nodded solemnly. It is a child of that beyond, and when it is born, something unnatural will happen. Nathan clutched his stomach, sweat trickling down his face. How do I stop this? How do I end this course? Mama Adora sighed. You don't. The spirit had already decided. A suffocating silence filled the room, and then a whisper. Nathan! Nathan gasped. The voice came from inside him, inside his belly. Chike butted to his feet. What was that? Nathan's entire body stiffened. His stomach shifted. A cold crawling sensation slithered up his spine. Mama Adora's face darkened. It is awake! Nathan screamed as an unbearable pain shot through his belly. The skin of his stomach rippled, moving on its own, as if something inside was trying to push through. Chike staggered in horror. God have mercy. Nathan collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony, and then a small clawed hand pressed against the skin of his stomach. From the inside, Nathan's scream filled the small house as his belly twisted unnaturally. Chike rushed forward, grabbing his shoulder. Nathan, hold on, stay with me. Mama Adora's face was expressionless. It's coming. Nathan's body ached backward. His breath came in short, painful gasps. The thing came out, moving, crawling, trying to get out, then silence. Nathan's eyes fluttered open. The pain was gone. For a moment, he thought it was over. Maybe it was just hallucination, maybe. A voice whispered from inside. I'm here, Father. Nathan choked on his breath. His heart hammered against his rib. No, no, no. He clawed at his stomach, desperate to tear whatever it was. Mama Adora's voice was sharp. You cannot stop it. The child has chosen you. The only way to survive is to accept it. Chike was already backing towards the door. Nathan, we need to leave now. But before he could move, the light flickered. The air in the room grew heavier, suffocating, and then a dark slimy fluid began dripping from Nathan's belly button. Nathan let out a strangled cry. The fluid was thick, black as night, seeping through the clothes like ink. His entire body shook violently, and then a sharp piercing cry filled the air, not from Nathan, not from Mama Adora, but from inside of him. Nathan's eyes rolled back as darkness consumed him, and in that moment he knew something had been born inside of him. Nathan's body convulsed on the floor. His breathing was erratic, his eyes flickering open and shut. The black fluid oozing from his belly button thickened, spreading across his skin like veins of darkness. Chike was frozen in place, his face a mask of horror. Nathan, talk to me. What the hell is happening? Mama Adora watched in eerie silence. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Instead, she shook and took a deep breath, deliberate steps towards Nathan. Then the air shifted, something crawled out of Nathan's belly. It wasn't a baby, it wasn't human. It was a shadow, dark, twisted, pulsing like a living nightmare. The creature slithered out of Nathan's body. Without breaking his skin, it had not defined form, just shifting darkness with two glowing eyes. Chike's leg gave out. Jesus Christ! Nathan's mouth opened in silent scream. His body was paralyzed, unable to move as the creature hovered over him. Then he spoke. Father, you abandoned me here. Will you do it again? Nathan's entire body shuddered. No, his voice was barely a whisper. No, no, this isn't real. The shadow baby tilted his head, barely like a whisper. Then why did you hear me? Mama Adora's voice was calm but firm. Nathan, listen carefully. Whatever you do, do not reject it. Nathan's breath came in short gasps. What happens if I do? The old woman's eyes darkened. Then it will take from you. Nathan felt a chill crawl down his spine. Take what? Before Mama Adora could answer, the shadow child moved. It lunged at Nathan, straight into his heart. Nathan's body ached as an unbearable force surged through him. His vision blurred, memories flashing before his eyes. The night Adora begged him to believe her, the cold, lifeless look in her eyes when she died, the cause, the pain, the betrayal, and then darkness. Nathan woke up, gasping for air. It was no longer in Mama Adora's house. He was somewhere. The world around him was black, not just dark, but an endless void of emptiness. A whisper floating through the air. You abandoned me, Father. Nathan turned sharply. The shadow child stood before him. His glowing eyes pierced into his. Emotionless, calculating. Nathan swallowed hard. I didn't know. I didn't understand what was happening. The creature took a slow step forward, and now Nathan's throat tightened. Now I do. Silence. Then the shadow voice shifted. It wasn't alone. Whispers, hundreds of them. Nathan's breath hitched. The voices surrounding him whispering words he couldn't understand. His skin crawled, then a sharp pain in his chest. Nathan screamed, clutching his heart. Something was being pulled from him. His vision blurred, his strength faded. This very soul was being drained. You rejected me, the shadow child said. So now I will take something precious from you. Nathan's mind reeled in terror. Wait, stop. But it was too late. A final whisper echoed in the void. Goodbye, Father. Nathan's eyes snapped open. He was back in Mama Adora's house, but something was wrong. Chike was staring at him, not with fear, but with confusion. Nathan, Chike's voice shook. Why do you look different? Nathan looked at his hands. His skin, his pale fingers, thinner. His body felt weak. Then he saw his reflection in the mirror. He had aged. His once youthful face now had wrinkles. His hair, who had been thick and dark, had streaks of gray. His body looked as if he had lost years of life in mere seconds. Nathan's hand trembled. The shadow child had taken his youth, and this was only the beginning. Nathan's hand trembled as he stared at his reflection. The only vibrant man he had been was gone. The youth stolen in mere moments. His once smooth skin was lined with deep wrinkles, his eyes sunken as if he had aged 20 years in a heartbeat. No, 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 this can't be happening, he whispered, his voice cracking. Chike swallowed hard, stepping back. Nathan, you look like an old man. Mama Adora closed her eyes and sighed deeply. You rejected it, Nathan, and now it has taken what it needed to survive. Nathan turned to her, his eyes wide with desperation. But why? Why me? Why did he choose me? His voice broke. He had never felt so weak, so helpless. I never asked for this. Mama Adora's voice was steady, but there was a deep sorrow in her gaze. You abandoned your wife in the most desperate moment. You left her alone to suffer. You turned your back on the child she carried. And now the spirit had given you a second chance to feel what she felt, to carry the burden you had once cast aside. Nathan's leg gave out, and he collapsed into the floor. His breath came in ragged sobs. Everything was slipping away. First, his life has changed with the pregnancy. Then, he had become an outcast. Now, his youth had gone. What would be next? Chike clenched his face, his voice shaking. There has to be a way to fix this, Mama. You know something, don't you? The old woman turned her gaze to the floor. A heavy silence filled the room. Nathan looked at her, his heart pounding. Please, tell me there's a way to stop this. Mama Adora hesitated, then spoke. There's only one way, Nathan, but it comes with a price. Nathan's lip trembled. What price? She turned her tired eyes to him. You must find the soul of the woman you abandoned. Adora. Silence. Nathan's heart and breath hitched. Find Adora? But she was dead. Chike looked at Mama Adora in disbelief. Wait, what do you mean? Nathan had to bring Adora's spirit. Mama Adora gave a slow nod. If he can find her soul and seek her forgiveness, the spirit may release him. But if he fails, Nathan's stomach twisted. If I fail, what happens? Mama Adora's voice was cold. Then the child will take everything. Nathan felt like he was drowning. He had thought the worst was over, but the nightmare was only beginning. How was he supposed to find a dead woman's soul? Where was Adora now? And the most terrifying question of all, what if she refused to forgive him? As the weight of his fate settled on him, Nathan realized something chilly. The spirit child had only taken his youth as warning. Next time, it might take his life. Nathan's mind raced. The air around him felt thick, suffocating. Find Adora's soul. How? Where? He was dead, long gone. Yet now, his only chance of survival depended on seeking her out. Nathan's breath trembled. How do I find her, Mama Adora? How do I speak to a woman who is no longer alive? Mama Adora's voice was low, almost reluctant. There is a way, but it is dangerous. Chike coughed, his fear barely contained. Dangerous? More dangerous than whatever just happened now? The old woman's gaze darkened. Yes. Nathan swallowed her. Tell me. She exhaled. There's a place. The crossing, a bridge between the living and the dead. If you go there, you might have to find Adora. But be warned. She leaned forward, her eyes burning into his. Once you enter, the spirit will test you. If you fail, you won't return. A chilling silence filled the room. Nathan's finger coiled into a fix. He had no choice. If he stayed, the shadow child would take more from him. His strength, his mind, maybe even his life. He looked at Chike. You don't have to come with me. Chike hesitated, his face a mixture of fear and loyalty. But then he nodded. You are my brother. I am not leaving you to do this alone. Mama Adora studied them both, then slowly stood up. Then prepare yourself. The journey begins at midnight. Nathan felt a weight settled in his chest. At midnight, he would step into the world of the dead. Would he return? Or would Adora make sure he stayed there forever? The wind howled through the trees as Nathan and Chike following Mama Adora's deep into the forest. Every step felt heavier, the air colder. This is it, Mama Adora said, stopping before a massive twisted tree. Its root coiled unnaturally, and in the center of the trunk was a hollow black as night. Chike shifted uncomfortably. This doesn't feel right. Nathan clenched his jaw. What do I do? Mama Adora turned to him. Step forward, place your hand on the tree, and close your eyes. If the spirit accepts you, you will cross over. Nathan hesitated. His heart pounded against his rib, but he had come this far to back out now. With a deep breath, he stepped forward and placed his palm against the cold back. The wind stopped, silence, then darkness swallowed him completely. Nathan's eyes snapped open. He was no longer in the forest. He was standing in the middle of a vast, colorless wasteland. The sky above him was gray, swirling like storm clouds. The air was thick, pressing against his skin, and then whispers, low, sinister, coming from everywhere. Nathan turned sharply. Figures were emerging from the mix, shadowed, faceless figures. The dead. His breath hitched. Then a voice, familiar, haunting. Nathan. His entire body froze. He turned slowly, and there she was, Adora. She stood a few feet away, her face pale, her eyes darkened and unreadable. She wore the same dress she had worn the day he left her. Nathan's throat tightened. Adora. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Then her lips parted. Why have you come? Nathan took a shaky step forward. I need your help. Adora tilted her head slightly. Her voice was cold. You need my help? After what you did to me? Nathan felt like he was being crushed under an invisible weight. I was wrong, Adora. I was a coward. I should have listened to you. I should have been there. His voice cracked. I should have never abandoned you. Adora's eyes darkened. And now, you know how it feels. Nathan's chest ached. Please, I need your forgiveness. The spirit won't release me unless you. Adora let out a cold, humorous laugh. Forgiveness? Nathan's blood ran cold. Adora took a step forward. Do you know how I died, Nathan? Do you know the pain I went through? Do you know what it feels like to beg for someone's love and be left in the dark? Nathan's eyes stung with tears. I know now, and I swear, I will give anything to take it back. Adora studied him for a long time. Then her expression changed. She smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was cruel. Then give me something in return, Nathan. Nathan's breath caught. Anything. Adora's eyes glowed faintly. If you want my forgiveness, give me your heart. Nathan's stomach twisted. What? Adora stepped forward, her presence suffocating. A life for a life, Nathan. You took mine. Now I take yours. Nathan staggered back. This wasn't forgiveness. This was punishment. His pulse pounded in his ears. Chike's word echoed in his mind. What if she doesn't forgive you? And now, Nathan knew. Adora didn't want to forgive him. She wanted revenge. Nathan's heart pounded. His breath came in short gasps. Give Adora his heart. Was this a test? Or was she serious? Adora, please, he whispered. I didn't come here to die. I came here to make things right. Adora's cold gaze didn't waver. You came here because you had no choice. Because you are afraid of what is happening to you. If the spirit hadn't caused you, would you ever sort me out? Nathan's throat tightened. Adora took another step forward. The ground beneath her cracked, and suddenly the air around them shifted. They were no longer alone. More spirits emerged. Some looked like shadows, others looked like people, women. Nathan's breath hitched. They all had one thing in common. Empty eyes, hollow expression, like they had been abandoned. Adora gestured to them. You are not the only one, Nathan. You think you are suffering. You think you are the only man to betray someone who loved him. The spirits whispered their voices like cold wind, slicing through his skin. He left me. I cried for him. But he never came back. He promised me forever, then disappeared. Nathan stepped back, his entire body trembling. What? What is this? His voice was barely a whisper. Adora's expression darkened. This is the graveyard of forgotten souls. Women who died waiting for men who never returned. Nathan's stomach twisted. She wasn't just talking about him. This place, it held the pain of women who had been abandoned, and now they wanted something in return. A life for a life, Nathan. Adora whispered. Give me your heart or be trapped here forever. Nathan's mind spun. He was running out of time. If Adora didn't forgive him, he would never return to the living. But if he gave her his heart, he would die. What was he supposed to do? Then something unexpected happened. Another voice, soft, faint. Mama. Nathan froze. The spirit stilled. Adora turned sharply. Out of the mist stepped a child. Small, fragile, a small girl. Nathan's pulse stopped. It was the same child he had seen in his dream, the shadow child. But now she wasn't just a shadow. She had a face, and that face looked like Adora's. Nathan's world shattered. This was his daughter. She was real. She had existed, but he had abandoned her before she was even born. Adora's lip trembled. You! The little girl walked up to her mother. Her tiny hands reached for Adora's dress. Mama, don't be sad. Tears welled in Adora's eyes. I never got to hold you. The girl looked at Nathan. Papa came back. Nathan felt his knees go weak. I didn't know. His voice broke. I didn't know you existed. The little girl smiled. But you know now. Adora clenched her fist. No, it is too late. He doesn't deserve you. He doesn't deserve forgiveness. The spirit whispered loudly, their anger rising. The little girl shook her head. But Mama, if we don't forgive, we can't be free. Adora's body tensed. Nathan's chest ached. He had come here to beg for forgiveness, but now it was Adora who had a choice. Would she hold on to her pain or let go? Dan's chest ached. He had come here begging for forgiveness, but now it was Adora who had a choice. Would she hold on to her pain or let go? Nathan held his breath. The spirit grew restless, and then Adora's eyes softened. Her shoulders sagged, tears fell, and for the first time since her death, she let go. She dropped to her knees, pulling the little girl into her arms. My baby, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. The spirit around them began to fade. Nathan felt something shift inside him. A weight lifting. The curse was breaking. Adora looked up at him, her face filled with emotion he couldn't name. Nathan. He held his breath. Then she whispered the word that changed everything. I forgive you. A powerful wind sucked through the air. The ground cracked and Nathan's world turned black. Nathan's world spiraled into darkness. His body felt weightless, as if he was drifting between life and death. The last thing he remembered was Adora's voice whispering, I forgive you. And now silence. Then a heartbeat. Bang, doom, bang, doom, bang, doom. His eyes snapped open. Nathan gasped for air, his chest rising and falling rapidly. He was lying on the cold forest ground, and gnarled trees towering over him. The twisted branches swayed eerie in the wind. Chike knelt beside him, shaking him violently. Nathan, Nathan, wake up. Nathan's throat was dry, his limb weak, but he was alive. He turned his head and saw Mama Adora standing a few feet away, watching him with knowing eyes. He blinked. Was it over? His hand trembled as he touched his stomach. The pregnancy was gone. The unbearable weight that had tortured him for weeks had disappeared. His body was his own again, but something was different. He could feel it in his soul. Something had changed. Nathan sat up slowly, his mind reeling. I saw her, he whispered. I saw Adora. Chike swallowed hard. And then what happened? Nathan exhaled shakily. She forgave me. A tense silence filled the air. Mama Adora finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. Then the spirit have released you. Nathan's heart pounded. He was free, but at what cost? He closed his eyes, his chest tightening. He had seen his daughter, the child he had never knew existed. She had looked at him with eyes filled with innocence and forgiveness, and now she was gone. He clenched his lips and face. Where is she? His voice was barely above a whisper. The child, my daughter, is she at peace? Mama Adora's face darkened. This is not for me to say. Nathan felt something twist inside of him. He had come face to face with the weight of his past sin, and now, even though he had been given another chance, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a scar, a deep wound that would never fully heal. Nathan and Chike left the forest in silence. The night air was heavy and every step like he was walking through the remnant of his past. As they neared the village, people whispered, their eyes wide with shock. The man who had carried the child like a corpse had returned and transformed. Some called it a miracle, others called it a warning. But Nathan knew the truth. It was a lesson. Days passed. Nathan sat outside his home staring at the horizon. For the first time in years, he felt whole, but he also felt pain. Not the pain of the cause, but the pain of regret. He had been given something precious once, a woman who loved him, a child who needed him, and he had thrown all away. Now he was free, but freedom didn't erase the past. Nathan stood up, his mind clear for the first time in years. He knew what he had to do. He walked in the village square where a crowd had gathered, curious about the man who had survived the wrath of the spirit. He took a deep breath and spoke. I was a foolish man. His voice was steady, carrying the weight of his mistake. I abandoned my wife when she needed me the most. I left her alone in pain. I let pride and fear guide my choices, and because of that, I lost everything. The crowd was silent, hanging on to every of his words. Nathan continued, his eyes burning with emotion. A man is not measured by his strength, nor by much he provides, but by the love and responsibility to give to those who trust him. A few murmurs spread through the crowd. Some men lowered their head in shame. Women exchanged glances, their eyes filled with unspoken truth. Nathan stepped forward. If you have someone who loves you, cherish them. If you have a child, protect them. Because if you fail to do so, life has a way of making you feel the pain you once ignored. His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. I carried a cross, but the real cause was my own selfishness. I had to lose everything to learn what truly matters. He looked at the men in the crowd, his eyes sharp. Do not wait until it is over. Love your family, stand by them, because once they are gone, no amount of regret can bring them back. The silence was deafening. A young man wiped his eyes. A woman held her husband's hand a little tighter. A child looked up at his father with a new understanding. Nathan sighed. I will live with the lesson for the rest of my life. But if my pain can stop another man from making the same mistake, then maybe it was all worth it. With that, he turned and walked away. And for the first time, Nathan wasn't running from his past. He was walking towards his future, a future shaped by loss, but built on redemption. A real man is not one who runs from his responsibility, but one who faces them no matter how difficult. Love is not just about feeling. It is a duty, a promise you must keep even though it is hard. Pride can destroy what love builds, but don't let your ego make you lose the one who truly matters. Regret is heavier than responsibility. Do the right thing before it is too late. Nathan's journey wasn't just about breaking a curse, it was about transformation. He learned that true strength lies in love, not in avoiding responsibility. His pain became a lesson for others, a warning not to take love for granted. The Spirit didn't punish him, they showed him the truth. And sometimes the truth is the hardest thing to face in life.